Welcome to Real Conversations, exploring the meaning behind the music. Hi, I'm Reverend Jeannie Kataoka.
And I'm Al Yankee. Join with us for a deep dive into the inspiration and meaning behind the music of New Thought, as important New Thought artists share the story of their creative process and their spiritual journey.
Real Conversations is a rare opportunity to take a look behind the curtain to discover the connections between the stories, the music, the artists, and you. So let's dive right in to Real Conversations, exploring the meaning behind the music. Al and I are with David Ault. And as I was just telling him, he's like a big get for us. We're so happy to have him. So welcome, David.
So nice to be here. What a fun episode. I'm looking forward to this. I love the idea of what you have created.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to share a little bit about you, actually quite a bit about you.
You can edit that, just by the way.
I know Al always kind of goes, but I go, no, this is all good information. So here we go. David Ault is a visionary leader in the human potential movement who has been promoting mindfulness, global literacy, and social justice for over 30 years. He has traveled the world as a teacher and heart-centered guide with the sole purpose of bridging our collective forgetfulness into our great collective reawakening. As an award-winning author, leadership and personal coach, the global education advocate, he exemplifies his motto that people would rather see a lesson than hear one. He is the founder of Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, a nonprofit organization that empowers vulnerable children and communities worldwide with sustainable education, life skills, and fresh water. Since its inception more than 20 years ago, Kaleidoscope has established 3 schools, 1 in Cambodia and 2 in India, and collaborated with literacy and hygiene programs in Guatemala, Africa, and the United States, serving more than 1,000 children annually. David is also an avid adventurer. He has hiked the Inca Trail to the ruins of Machu Picchu in Peru, trekked across the entire country of Spain on the ancient pilgrimage known as the Camino de Santiago, and summited Kilimanjaro in Africa. He regularly leads groups on sacred site journeys, service trips, and constantly marvels at the wisdom gained through cultural immersion. As a respected teacher, writer, and columnist, David is the author of the bestseller, Where Regret Cannot Find Me, and the multi-award-winning The Glass is Greener Right Here. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
So, David, none of that had anything to do with music, but of course, you're well known, maybe as a musician as much as any of the rest of that. So what were your earliest musical experiences? Where did that come from? What's the origin story?
What has been told to me was I came out of the womb humming. So I started singing just as a child, and I grew up in that atypical church environment where music was so central. And my mother had wanted to be an opera singer, and she had a beautiful soprano voice. And the times and the situation and the poverty and all of that, she never was able to do much with that other than sing at church. But then she became very stage mothery and pushed those aspirations onto me, which was great because I began to be involved in church choirs and school choirs and competitions, and eventually got bit by the showbiz bug, moving all the way to New York City and pursuing an acting career there, and then on to Hollywood. So I've been singing a lot for most of my life. Yeah.
Well, we've certainly heard a lot from you and enjoyed everything that we've heard, and we're going to hear some things here today. So what part of the country did you grow up in?
Grew up in Beaumont, Texas, which is a
All
little
right.
southeast coastal town between Houston and Galveston.
Gee, that's a beautiful part of the country.
Depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
very humid, but growing up in that, I didn't know anything else different, and you could get to the beach pretty quickly, so that's all that really mattered. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
then you went to college and
And
uh
that's a thanks, Al. That's a really touchy subject.
oh well, I don't mean we
No,
can we
no,
can
I'm
we can move
teasing
right on
you.
by it.
I'm teasing you. That's the big joke. So yeah, I fell in love with journalism actually in high
Hmm.
school. I had a great teacher who just really mentored me. And so we came from nothing, and I would have been the first child to really go off for an academic career. And so I knew that a scholarship was necessary. So
Hmm.
this teacher in high school helped me go through all the hoops, and I got a full scholarship to North Texas State to study journalism.
Wow.
And my mother, who you would think would have been overjoyed, again, very, very religious, very hardcore, fundamentalist Christian. When I presented that to her, her one signature response to me was that the Lord told her. And if your mother starts a sentence with the Lord told me, there's very little room for argument. She
Yikes.
told
Okay.
her that I was that she strongly knew that I was supposed to go to Oral Roberts University.
Hmm.
So having grown up in that environment and then my critical thinking skills kicking in somewhere in junior high school, I knew that I wasn't in full agreement with what I was hearing, but I didn't know anything else, and I didn't know how to get out of there other than to hold out till college and then go off and, taste a little bit of life myself. So that meant Oral Roberts. First of all, it meant what about the scholarship? But it also meant 4 more years of the same environment, the same
Hmm.
indoctrination. And mother won out, and I ended up going. Well, I tried to pull all of my savvy 17-year-old cards, and I said, but mom, I said, okay, I'll tell you, I'll apply for a scholarship. And if I get one, we'll know that it was the Lord's voice that you heard. And so I did. And the joke is this will teach you to be specific because I didn't apply for a full scholarship. I got a
Oh,
half scholarship that barely
oh,
paid for anything. So off I go to 4 more years of the same. Had to work full time, everything from Pizza Hut to singing telegrams to retail, you can imagine. But it was there that I met this guy named Jerry Florence. So my one salvation was music. And I ended up being a world action singer on the global telecast, if you ever used to watch him on Sunday mornings. But they had something called summer music ministry programs, and you could audition. And if you got put into a band that traveled all summer, you got big chunk of tuition paid. So
Okay.
I'm like, cha-ching. And I went in even as a little tiny freshman and I got in. I got into a group and toured all of that summer. And that was a good thing. And I was so in admiration and awe of this guy, Jerry, because not only was he a skilled musician, great voice, but he could manage like 15 bands on the road. And then I heard that he wasn't coming back. And my world sort of went, because I thought I could hold out 3 more years if I could be around that. Um, cut to maybe 8 or 9 years later. And I have since graduated. I've since moved to New York. I've since gone to LA for a bunch of things. And I'm in LA for what used to be called pilot season.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's when they would roll out a bunch of new television shows and they would shoot them. And if you got cast, they would show those to the suits and then they would pick their lineups. And so I was out in LA for pilot season, didn't know a soul. I had spent most of my time in New York. I turned the corner and who should I run into but Jerry Florence from Oral Roberts University.
Okay.
And he looked at me and I looked at him and we were like, And it was like, oh, and he invited me on the spot to a Wednesday night thing in Hollywood. And given the perspective of church and Oral Roberts and all of that, I immediately associated that he was inviting me to church. And he saw my hesitancy because I was kind of done with that. And he said, no, no, this is different. In fact, I'm running sound for this woman, and she's just getting started. And I think you would really find what she has to say fascinating. And I showed up on that Wednesday, and that was Louise Hay. And
Wow.
the
Yes.
rest is sort of history because not only did what I hear change the trajectory of my life, but then the experience that blossomed from that of being in a trio founded by Jerry, and then going on the road with Louise for several pivotal years just was like drinking out of a fire hose. It was a crash course in metaphysics and new thought and leadership and power and people's projections and dependencies and horrors and needs. I mean, it was just everything, beauty all rolled up into one. And I just thought, what a gift. I can't believe that I fell into that. And that sort of has been the stimulus and the operative by which I have navigated both the hard things and the good things from Louise. And she was like a second mom to me. So,
Wow. Wow.
so my mother was right. It was the Lord's voice that she heard. After
Yeah, I
all
was
these
going to say
years, I still have to give her credit for that one, even though that was felt like the end of the world.
that. I'm sure it did.
So I don't mean to be too personal, but so you've always had a good relationship with your mother, despite maybe
No,
some
no,
different
no.
worldview.
It was a very challenging relationship, and same
Sorry.
with my. No, that's okay. Uh, we all have those things that are part of the formative experience of why we choose what we choose, and that was kind of that little soul agreement. And but man, what an experience! It was a privilege. It was a privilege beyond privilege because it was not easy. It wasn't pretty. It was hard. Uh, but the things that one sees, you know how if you've ever served on boards and they talk about, hey, you get to see how the sausage is made. It's like
Right.
you get to see the immensity of what it feels like to be in front of that kind of not just the crowds, but those who are in crisis mode. Because if you remember, her launch started with that other pandemic, which was the AIDS crisis,
Right.
where there
Yeah.
was nothing and people were dying left, right, and center. And we were singing every week and traveling with her. And in West Hollywood, she moved locations 3 times up to the point where there were more than 800 people showing up on a Wednesday night, flying in internationally. And the Hollywood Fire Department fire marshals would be there to turn people away. And
Mm.
to be there to witness that, um, I've talked to I got to appear in a documentary about that era, and it's interesting when we live as long as we have been living that you start to see generations that know nothing about that time.
Right.
And
So
And that's
so
true.
why we're here to tell the story.
yeah, exactly. And so it's a privilege to kind of be a little torchbearer for that and the beginnings of what we thought were New Thought music and the joke that we were the first boy band in New Thought. And yeah,
So would it be okay with you if we played something from those days?
sure, of course.
Oh well, then I think this is the perfect spot for us to play what has to be the best known of the songs from the group, which Alliance was the name of it.
Alliance. Yeah.
Yes, which is I Love Myself. So here's from what year would this have been?
Anywhere from 83 to about 87.
Okay, so
Yeah.
from the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Here's Alliance with I Love Myself.
Weren't they great? Do you remember?
Yeah. Wow, what it was like to be that open and loving.
Let's go back there.
Love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful, I'm capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love you just the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy to love you. I see your shining star, and I love you just the way you are. I love the world the way it is, 'cause I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. Love myself the way I am, and still
Well, I just took a time travel back to the 80s. The synthesizers and
Oh my God.
I mean it does have its dated aspects, but it holds up.
Yeah, it's well, it definitely holds up in my brain with those lyrics. I hear them all the time in my head. I don't know, thousands of times we must have sung that song.
Right,
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
Well, when you got a hit, you got a hit.
Yeah.
And we didn't write that. A wonderful writer named Jai Joseph wrote that. But there's a backstory to that too. But Louise had found that, and she was like, I want something up and peppy.
Mm.
Can you make it up and peppy? And so that was our up and peppy version of "I Love Myself the Way I Am."
All right, beautiful.
So I came across this quote. In my world of effect, there will always be someone smarter, prettier, handsomer, richer, braver, and more talented than me. And eventually I learned that the gift of life isn't about any of that. It's about ceaselessly taking inventory of all the gifts I do possess and never abusing them through the waste of comparison.
Hmm.
How did you come to that idea?
I was going to say, who wrote that? That's beautiful. I in just kind of living a life of observation and people's suffering and the way in which it arises. A lot of that comes from comparison and the way in which the inability to either name it or address it causes a lot of pause and causes a lot of inertia in people. And so to find a way to teach them that it isn't about that, it's about the quality that you bring. So you can do that through music, you can do that through coaching, you can do that through all kinds of retreat situations and processes and things. But it's also been something for me as well. And I've never, I think I sing fine, but there are people who sing that when they sing, everything within me, the blood rushes through my body. You know what I'm talking about. And we all have those. And what's so wonderful about that is that it can be very different for everybody. And you want people to realize that. You want them to understand that there is always an outlet, there is always an audience, there is always a championing for whatever it is in their brand of being. And to not get caught up in anything, any voice, any structural component that tells them that it has to be a certain way. And a lot of that wisdom is gained through experience and through a lot of self-doubt and actually being an actor in the industry where you walk in and it's just comparison.
Right.
And the decades of auditioning and things that I desperately wanted that I didn't get, and you never know why, because there's no time for that. They don't give you the feedback. It could be you're 1 inch too tall, but you just gave it your all. And so it's a refinement. It's like sandpaper, just constantly wearing you down till you get to the point of a very sincere surrender. And finally, you see that comparison, it just drains you. So go be you. Go be you.
And then if all that fails, go back and sing "I Love Myself."
So was that what you were doing in the years following in the 90s?
Yeah, when I left Oral Roberts, in the interim of that, I had found summer stock theater and I got to play Curly in Oklahoma in the Rodgers and Hammerstein official outdoor arena production of Oklahoma.
Ooh, wow.
I think it's the only outdoor production of Oklahoma in Oklahoma, but it's sanctioned that way. They got the Rodgers and Hammerstein Society to give them that title. And had my horse that I rode in that knew all the cues of when to stop and on Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. And I was hooked. I had been in theater in high school as well, and again had sung through choirs, but something about that summer just the light turned on, and I went, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And saved my pennies. And when I graduated, I had 2 duffel bags and I got on a Greyhound bus and I moved to Manhattan. And whew, that was fun. And I don't regret a minute of it.
It's a little culture shift there.
Yeah, eventually got my equity card and got my SAG card and got my after card and soap operas and tour shows and did, a really nice, decent amount of work, and then wound up in Hollywood. And the joke, even after Alliance started, I still had half of my body in that world. So it was interesting to juggle. Now we were touring with Louise and doing that, and then I still had half of the other me and trying to juggle auditioning and callbacks. And so the joke on the travel van was, David, do you need to stop and call your agent? Do you remember back in the days of answering services?
Oh yeah.
And
Your
so
girl?
it was
Yeah.
like such a pest. I mean, everybody, even Louise was like, do you need to call your agent? And I did one time because I was up for one of television history's biggest shows, and it was between me and the other person.
Oh.
And I remember we were somewhere like in Bartlesville or something, like driving from maybe Nevada back to LA, and I pulled over and I didn't get it. And I remember standing there and getting back on the van, and I always sat next to Louise. And Louise had repeatedly told me things like, David, you need to honor the entirety of your journey. And it would go in one ear and out the other. And I got back on that van and I started in this pity party about, if I had only been born in a different certain, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was devastated. Like my whole life flashed before me about this one opportunity. And she said, she let me go on. And then she had these really great nails, her meticulously nails, and she dug them very motherly into my knee. And the marks are still there. No, and she said, need I remind you, you must learn to honor the entirety of your journey, or else you wouldn't be here in this moment. And that was really a turning point where I realized that everything that I was cursing behind me had actually got me to where I was. And that message has infiltrated into songwriting and into the work that I do, and realizing that it's all been perfect. It's been absolutely perfect.
We're just going to let that, because all of that is a great segue into a song from one of your early solo CDs, Let the Healing Begin. We're talking to Reverend David Ault. This is Let the Healing Begin.
Bring to me your broken wings. Bring me your empty sky. Rest your trembling heart in mine. I'll sing you a lullaby. Come and find your innocence. Come find the faith of a child again. Here far below the lies you were told. Come and let the healing begin. Paint for me your blackest night. I'll paint you the Milky Way. Give me your faded childhood dream. I'll give you the color of day. Come and find your innocence. Come find the faith of a child again. Here far below the lies you were told. Come and let the healing begin. Someone you trusted but never knew twisted your joy into shame. They wounded you and walked away, and somehow you've taken the blame. But the fault is not yours, you are not to blame. So don't let yourself listen to the lies. You are my treasured child. Come, let me give you the wings to fly. Come and find your innocence. Come find the faith of a child again. Here far below the lies you were told. Come and let the healing begin. Come and let the healing begin. Oh, come and let the healing begin.
That's just a beautiful song. There's, offering what you were offered, some hope, some compassion, so, some healing but I do have to ask, because that little riff in there, that repeats, is I've played Man of La Mancha several times, and I was wondering if you were ever Don Quixote or if you had.
I was
been in that
not.
show.
And again, that song, I've written a lot of songs. I did not write that one. And somebody gave that to me and they said, I hear you singing this. So I can't take credit for the beautiful riff that you're referencing, but I was completely, in fact, that song was that and the title track of that CD were my two big numbers that I did almost consistently when I started to travel and promote the CD. And you know how you start to, I guess, get an audience favorite, or you get to see what it is that they resonate with or what they want to come talk to you about. And without fail, they wanted that song. They wanted to know about that. And because it's an invitation to let all that comparison go.
And just to go back to something you were talking about being curly. Because I don't know that it happens so much anymore, but Oh, What a Beautiful Morning, we used to do that all the time in CSLs.
Sure. And that was part of Louise's request is that she didn't want to she wanted original music. She wanted new music to buoy what she was trying to facilitate and do. And we weren't the first people. There were, God, I can't even think of some of those names of a few guys with guitars out there. But the way in which we showed up and as a trio and all of that kind of stuff really was a benchmark, I think, in turning things around. And
it was
and
new, and it was,
yeah,
I think there was a big electricity around it,
things like a Silomar, if those who are watching are familiar with what a Silomar was, sometimes still is, the big conference in Monterey, and any other place. It was a big shift in what we were told used to be before us, somebody on the organ or somebody leading hymnals or changing the lyrics to a Broadway song. So to have us come in, it was interesting to watch the reaction to that.
Right. Kind of formative this might be a little tortured, but Beatles-like, in that it was and that it was something new and attracted a lot of attention.
And there were also many memories of being humbled. So somebody, after we had been together for a while, invited us to go to a Girl Scout camp because they thought, oh my God, if the adults are reacting this way, this is going to be big. And I think that they were the sponsor. And we showed up at this Girl Scout camp and we did a concert. And Jerry shouted out to them towards the end, do you want to hear more? And everybody goes, no. And then we realized that the girls, the leader, the older of the girls, they had found a path to the boys' camp. And the sooner that was over, the sooner lights out and the sooner they could sneak out and then wind their way over. So that pacified that piercing pain just a little bit. For years, we would go, do you want to hear more? And then we go, no. Like in the recording studio, we would say that too.
Oh, man. Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, I picked the next song, but I think we'll listen to it and then talk about One with the World.
Okay.
So let's listen to One with the World, Reverend David Ault.
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world, one with the world. One with the world, one with the world. Sing right along, yes, we all do belong. 'Cause we're one with the world, one with the world. Give peace a chance, won't you stand up and dance? I look around and pray for signs that tell the story of how God is in and through and all around me. I move ahead, for I am led to claim the good that lives and breathes in everything and sets my soul free. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. I'd rather seek than hide and join with everyone in showing how every heart is just the same and only love can shine through rain when we remain steadfast in knowing. One with the world, one with the world. Sing right along, yes, we all do belong. 'Cause we're one with the world, one with the world. Give peace a chance, won't you stand up and dance? Why don't you stand up, stand up, stand up and dance? Oh, yeah. Through every day and every way, I know that love is the one true constant light that's in and through all. So every sister, father, brother, every child, every mother, place your will into divine law. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. I'd rather seek than hide and join with everyone in showing how every heart is just the same, and only love can shine through rain when we remain steadfast in knowing one with the world, one with the world. Sing right along, yes, we all do belong, 'cause we're one with the world, one with the world. Give peace a chance, won't you stand up and dance?
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world. One with the world, one with the world, one with the world.
Sing me a hallelujah. Give me an om shanti shanti. Om mani padme hum shiva shiva. Om atako wasen, and so it is. Sing me a hallelujah. Give me an om shanti shanti. Om mani padme hum shiva shiva. Om atako wasen, and so it is.
Stand up, stand up, stand up and dance.
One with the world, one with the world. Sing right along, yes, we all do belong, 'cause we're one with the world, one with the world. Give peace a chance, won't you stand up and dance?
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world, one with the world.
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world.
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world. One with the world, one with the world, one with the world. Why don't you stand up, stand up, stand up and dance.
One with the world, one with the world.
One with the world, one with the world, one with the world, one with the world, one with the world. One with the
Okay, I'm going to say that one of the reasons I chose this song is because it's disco. And I love disco. And I think that people just diss disco, and I don't understand why. It's always got high production value, and it's got,
Yeah.
it's got a good beat. You can dance to all of that.
I love that song. I had so much fun with that song. And there's still a part of me that I don't know if you know a singer. His name is Jack Fowler, and we used to we always used to say, we should get together and make a disco album called God Groove, so that people could work out to it. And we still might do that someday. But yeah, it was fun. It was so much fun in the studio. And my long-term arranger collaborator, Jack Lee in California, he had a way of taking my ideas and implementing them, and then getting people to go, to sing all of the "Give me a hallelujah." It was a lot of fun in the studio.
Yeah, and Om Shanti Shanti,
I
and
know.
all of those.
That at a convention one time, several years, even after a lot of years after actually the album had been out. And we had people from Agape and a whole gathering, Karen Drucker and a bunch of people as an ensemble. And we did that together. And it's one of the highlights of my performing career.
I
Everybody
can
went,
believe that.
wow.
Yeah. One of the lyric that is simple, but I really liked it. I'd rather seek than hide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. True for me.
Should be true for all of us, but I'm not going to shit on anybody.
So I'm gonna follow on that because I mean, it's the One with the World is terrifically fun, as you say, and infectious. It's got all that great rhythm that we all, just automatically react to. So many of your things, and the things that I picked, are slow and very melodic, and they rely on beautiful sounds and beautiful melodies. And as someone who is very thoughtful and about this, the idea of rhythm and the physicality of it, and maybe melody and the sort of metaphysical possibilities of that. How do you decide?
In terms of what goes with the lyric, or
What you're going to do,
Oh.
when you're in the creative process?
I'd love that question. I just love that question because I used to think that for me, it was very formulaic, but it's different. So sometimes it's a melody in my head, and I'm just dangerous enough to sit and plunk the notes out on a piano. I'm not skilled enough to accompany myself. And so I've always relied on the skill of other people to be able to flesh out what I hear in my head. I was equally blessed to find the guy, Jack Lee, who I would go to, and he would transcribe my brain. And he would go, that doesn't make any sense. And I go, it must make sense because I can hear it. And after a feverish attempts that where he was ready to get up, he would find it and he would look at me like I was an alien, and he'd go, how did you hear that? And I go, I don't know, I just hear it. And I remember saying to him often in the early days, I feel as though I feel a little bit inept. I feel like I should learn the craft enough to be able to get all, and he goes, don't. He goes, don't, because if you did, you would probably pick obvious choices. And a lot of times your choices are not obvious. And he goes, if you're willing to hang in there with me, let me fish them out for you. And so there's like diminished fifths and all this kind of stuff going on. And so again, blessed that I would find and collaborate with somebody for so long, 25 years almost. And, to be able to do that. And so whether it ended up being a ballad or whether it ended up being up tempo was a lot of variables. And I think most of the time the upbeat stuff, there's an intention to do something upbeat. Most of my beginning attempts are very much more softer and melodic and more ballad driven. And it's only until I go, I need to write something upbeat, that I begin to craft from that particular framework.
Nice. Well, again, you've set up, without knowing it, you've set up the next tune beautifully.
People are going to be suspect of this.
I would like to play from around the same period. I'm Here to Remind You.
I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved.
You know, you talked about your, what's his name? Mr. Lee?
Jack Lee.
Jack
Yeah,
Lee.
yeah.
Picking out things, and I could understand this. You know, this has some unexpected notes in it. I would say some real in the melody. There's these quiet dissonances. You know that you really a couple times I went back and played it again. Yeah, that's what he means. That's what he says. It's and just gorgeous.
Those chord progressions are deliberate. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's the melody against the chord, you know,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, so there's a piece that I when I'm teaching, I talk about. It's everybody knows Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata,
Mhm.
and they know it so well that they kind of just turn off. They, oh, I've heard this. I say, no, listen to the pain,
Mm.
because it's very quiet, but there's dissonance in there, and he was
Mhm.
in pain. It was, I tell the story about this bad love affair he was having, and he wrote this for the girl, um, and there's some of that in this too. There's just these unexpected notes, and I go, oof, ooh.
Yeah, and that
Mhm.
muted trumpet is
Mhm.
kind of mournful. Yeah.
Mm.
Sad that we don't always recognize, because they say, I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, the wonder that you are, and how much you are truly loved. Yeah.
And for many, the idea of that too is that could be being sung from a almost a place of regret. I wish this person had known this when they were thriving and had an ability to hear it. So it can be used in a multitude of ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So somewhere along in here, you were also doing some studies, some ministerial studies, or
Yeah, well, Louise, she's still kind of responsible for that too, because that had been her path. She had become a practitioner in religious science back in the day in New York City. And um, and so we automatically were thrown into sort of those New Thought churches. So religious science and unity and several other things. And so we weren't just singing, I was sitting there listening, and I became intrigued. And I am more of a nerd than most and wanted to be in class. I wanted to find out what that was about. So I started taking those classes, not with the intention of becoming a minister. And again, another perfect positioning of a mentor in my life, where the the woman in the Los Angeles area who was my pivotal teacher, she would say, "Oh, just take another year. I know you don't want to do this, but the material's great, and I'll work with you if you're on the road, and we'll." And she did. She was just this very wise, I won't say calculating person who just kept encouraging me to stay with it. And all these years go by, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to be a practitioner. I know, but just take the courses, because again, the material is rich and I think it will benefit you. And then it would be test time. And I'd go, and she'd go, I know, but just take the test. Wouldn't it be fun just to kind of see? And all the way through my divinity degree, she was the one going, I know you don't want to do this. And so I laughed that became a minister by default through coercion. And yeah, it was something. And I think one of the things that really helped me in that edition of my expression was the fact that I had been in, by the time I got my degree, I had been in hundreds of churches. Hundreds of churches. And I saw things that I absolutely adored. The way in which certain structural things were offered, the seamlessness of things that were meaningful to me, whether it was a ritual or whether it was just the way in which you interfaced with the community. And then I saw many things that I didn't like. And to have the wealth of that to start to bring into my own experiences was so much fun, to be able to play that way and to cultivate these communities. And the last 10 years that I did that here in Atlanta were quite special. They were quite special. Yeah.
I could imagine, because I picked the next song, but I could imagine that part of your ministry was saying what is in this song. We can be kind.
Mm.
So let's listen to We Can Be Kind.
So many things we can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that will never go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, then what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hand. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about, you and I, do or die. We've got to learn to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind, if we always remember we can be kind.
I believe this was on what appeared to be a Christmas
That was
album.
on a Christmas album. Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked, I said, oh, is there one that's not too Christmassy? And certainly I found it. And I thought, wow, I just ended up sitting, I think I listened to it 2 times in a row, just letting it sink in and just be a meditation. It's like, yeah, we can be kind and we can take care of each other. And it just put so simply, and it's like, so why don't we?
And that song was written by another New Thoughter. His name is David Friedman, and I had the pleasure of being able to work with him, be in his presence and community in New York City, because I've done a lot of work at Unity of New York City.
Mm.
And he's been a big Broadway person, and he was the musical director for an exquisite singer by the name of Nancy Lamotte. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nancy Lamotte. She passed away far too young, but David was her producer, and he actually wrote that for her. So I said, "Can I do that song?" And he said, "Yeah."
Right, nice. So I really have to notice your beautiful use of head voice on that, and the back phrasing. I mean, you just which all gives it that that tender, but relaxed, inviting, warm sound.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, there's a lot of technique and mastery that's going on there that I feel like I want to point up to folks who just go, oh, he sings nice, I mean, you've been singing a long time. Did you have vocal teachers that or people that you wanted to emulate? I'm going to tell you right now that when I heard this, it made me think Mandy Patinkin, because he also does that beautiful head voice in the same way.
I wanted to do Che and Evita so many times. I did study feverishly in high school. I had a choral director whose husband was head of the opera department in my little town of Beaumont, Texas, at Lamar University. And she saw something, believed something. She really pushed. And so I was probably a lot of young people who are in those types of music departments and competitions. So it's learning madrigals and learning foreign language pieces and competitions and area, region, nationals, all of that stuff. That was so much a part of my world at the time. And then carrying over into Oral Roberts, being in the group and then being on television. So there was always some semblance of study. And even going to New York, you always had to have a vocal coach, vocal teacher. And then that's and I continued that also once moving to LA, but then that part kind of slowly waned. And I don't know, maybe that's something that lives in you a little bit. Maybe those things stay with you cellularly.
Sure. I mean, you don't unlearn it, So the next choice, I think we should listen to and then give you a chance to talk about it. And this is from the 2010s, getting a little closer to the current date. This is Good Here. Here's Reverend David Ault, Good Here.
Come bring your broken wing, come dry your crying eyes. Lay down the burdens that you bear. Come home to what you know feels whole and true and right. Be still and feel this simple prayer. There is good here, and I'm willing to see it. There is good here, and I'm open to be it. Help my eyes clear, help my heart start to feel it. I'm willing to see it. No matter what you say, no matter how you fight, somehow you're drawn to what you hear. No need to justify or make it wrong or right. Let go and sing through your fear. There is good here, and I'm willing to see it. There is good here, and I'm open to be it. Help my eyes clear, help my heart start to feel it. So long the story held you down, down, down. Wake from your sleep now and turn it all around. Move from the shadow into the light and say, there is good here, and I'm willing to see it. There is good here, and I'm open to be it. Help my eyes clear, help my heart start to feel it. There is good here, and I'm willing to see it. There is good here, and I'm open to be it. Help my eyes clear, help my heart start to feel it. I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to be it.
I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to be it. Good here. What would you like to say about this, David?
That was the first single that I ever released. And I wrote that song in my head while I walked my first Camino de Santiago across Spain. I had started and I was in the sort of the middle part of the quest of a foundation that I have created for kids across the world. And there was new needs developing, and there were new demands of how to raise funds. And I'm walking this Camino, and I thought, I know one of the ways that I'll do it is I'll write a song and produce it, and we'll use the proceeds of that, or we'll use that in some way as a PR point to build the awareness of what it is that we're trying to do at that time, specifically in Cambodia. And that had always been something that was required to do the depth of that type of work, is you have to be willing to see beyond appearances. You have to be willing to continue to go back time and again and look beyond the seeming struggle and stick around for the harvest, if you will. So I'd be walking across Spain, just chugging along, crafting that song in my head.
Would you like to say something more for these folks about your foundation?
Oh,
That's a
That's
plug.
a dangerous invitation. It's my heart, man. It's my life. I mean, I didn't leave ministry, but I left the formality of platform ministry because it has become such a pivotal um, piece of my soul. And so it's really about seeing the underbelly of poverty and discrimination and inequity and slums and villages and territories that many people will never encounter, and falling in love with these people and the kids, seeing a little bit of myself in their situation and wanting to do something. And there was a trip. And in fact, there's a singer named Greg Tamblyn. Do you guys know who Greg Tamblyn is?
Mhm.
So here's a buddy, and there was a group of us. There was Greg and Janice Stanfield and a couple of us. We would get on the phone every week and we would compare notes. Where did you go to this week? And how was your experience there? And we were like the troubadour centrals of how to support one another and maximize our travel efforts. And Greg was in that, and he called me and he said, this company contacted me. And if you get 15 people from your mailing list, you can go overseas and take them. And I was like, what? And that fed that adventurous piece in my soul as from being a little boy. And so I did. And that company took us to China, and 45 people signed up. And I was like in a panic. And then I fell in love with it because I got to climb the Great Wall of China. Thank you, Greg Tamblyn. And from that point on, it was just one tour, one place after another, all the way up to 2004. And we went to Cambodia and Thailand. And when we got to Cambodia, there was a palpable shift and an experience. And that was long before the improvement of infrastructure that's there today, that's long before other outer influences. They were still very much in the remnants of our civil war, and something happened, and we as a group had the ability to feed starving kids. And in that moment, everything changed. And there was a running mantra that I used, and it was I saw it in a travel magazine, and it said, the most powerful mantra that you can ever say is, I'm available. And then it said, look out, because if you're sincere, your whole world will change. And in that experience, I said, I'm available. And that became the genesis. And that's been 20 years this year of going back time and again. And so we have campuses now, and we have many, many Cambodian children for years, and we teach music and IT technology and English. We've branched over to India, and we have 2 schools in India, and we're doing partnership work in Guatemala to get a lot of these young Guatemalan girls out of slave labor practices, to get them education, which is much more complicated than it sounds. Working with educational groups in Kenya from people who are associated with United churches, religious science churches there. That one particular school is a part of CSL Kenya. And we're doing U.S. initiatives to hard-pressed communities in rural parts where their funding has been cut for after-school programs. So it's just one thing after another, and it's all consuming. And I don't earn enough to, live on my stipend, which is fine. And I love to do all the other things, but it is the thing that just lights me up. And they're going to do a documentary of all of this
Beautiful.
in
Wow.
January of 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got contacted by a documentarian, and on New Year's Eve, me and a crew and some alumni and people on the board are traveling, and we're gonna make a film.
There you go.
Great.
Yeah.
And raise more money.
Well, at least maybe even escalate the awareness, because the one thing I never want to get trapped by a legacy, but the one thing I do want to do before I leave the planet is I want to create some way to have an endowment. so that there's an endowment there that will continue to fund the programming to keep the schools going. And I think a film would be something awesome to have in your portfolio,
Mhm.
particularly when you're talking about grants and all of the stuff that's
Right.
required to show people what you're doing. And this filmmaker's amazing, and he wants to do the whole festival route. So I'm like, yeah, sign me up. So I'll be
That's
overseas
amazing.
for quite
Yeah.
a while. Yeah, next
That's
year.
right. Eat your
Yeah.
Wheaties, fasten your seatbelt. You know, that's going to take off. I just know it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I can see
okay.
that happening. Yeah.
That's awesome. I will accept that.
I came across this quote today after I listened to this next song, and I might even make you guess. So the quote is from Paramahamsa Yogananda.
Uh-huh.
Your trials did not come to punish you, but to awaken you. What song do you think I chose?
Reawake, because you're a
Yes.
disco lover.
Yeah,
I
So
never
let's-
thought of these as disco, but I think I'm right with you. You and I should go out dancing.
Okay, I love to dance.
I
My
loved,
husband doesn't, so
I
yeah.
loved this. Yeah, this and what spurred this song was there. You know that those stations that used to be able to listen to where they just played music, but sometimes you'd hear it and you go, "Ooh, I really like that sound," and I'd try to record it. And that came from hearing a sound like that. And I thought, what would happen if I looped that? And that started the whole idea of, and I was big on and I still am on the whole reawaken thing, because I love the way when I say reawaken, what it does, what it causes my mind to do. So it's not
Mhm.
awaken, it's reawaken, which indicates that you've already been awake. Now,
Right.
shake yourself from the sleep. And so that was the whole inspiration for this song.
All right, so let's listen to Reawake.
Reawake to what you know, how every day is here to show you can really trust your heart. Open up, allow yourself to take your faith from off the shelf and make a whole new start. The time is right, the time is now. Forgive the past, release the how. No need to make love wait. You have what you're longing for. Open up, walk through the door. It's time to celebrate, celebrate. It's time to 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 celebrate. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back. Don't go back. Don't go back. Reawake and see. Reawake. Be the one who dreams of change. Know that you can rearrange what's happening in your life. Wishing only goes so far. It's time to move and raise the bar and look at all that's right. Stand up tall, stand your ground. Don't let illusion drag you down. You're the one you've waited for. Own your truth, release your power. Let this be your finest hour. Be the one that you adore evermore. but you know how every day is here to show you can really trust your heart. Open up, allow yourself to take your faith from off the shelf and make a whole new start. The time is right, the time is now. Forget the past, release the how. No need to make love wait. You have what you're longing for. Open up, walk through the door. It's time to celebrate, celebrate. It's time to celebrate. It's time to celebrate. It's time to celebrate. It's time to celebrate. Don't go back to sleep. Reawake and see. Don't go back to sleep. Reawake and see.
Something that I liked about this song, I have a Catholic background, and there was a lot of, you're not worthy, and you're a sinner, and original stain of original sin, and all that kind of stuff. But I thought it's time to celebrate. Don't go back to sleep. As you said, you've
Yeah.
already been awake. And I was like, and I just took that to, like, I am a good person. I am a child of God. I am, all of that. And it would just kind of went against all those teachings, which unfortunately are still part of me.
Yeah.
Because I got them so young. So that was one thing I really appreciated about this. And I thought other people need to hear this. I'm choosing this one.
And there's an exquisite Rumi poem called Don't Go Back to Sleep, and so that too was very much on the forefront at the time. And I think I like that idea. Don't go back to sleep.
So the production values just keep getting better, and they're all in all these recordings. The production values are very, they're strong. And is this Jack Lee again?
Jack Lee.
There you go. Well, kudos to Jack.
I know.
Yeah, and I had to ask the question because you're doing a really interesting thing of the octave melody on there. Are you singing both octaves on that, or is
I
that
am. Yeah.
okay? Yeah, that's a very cool color. I've always loved that when I hear, and it's unusual. Not a lot of recordings folks do that. And then on the background, are you doing the background vocals too?
Most of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I had to ask because sometimes when folks, I know when I do my background vocals on my things, it's just all sounds like me, and I got to go. I got to get some other voices in there.
Well, and there's some too, but what Jack taught me, and maybe you can help me validate this, is he said you don't want them to be in sync. You want there to be little fluctuations in there because that makes it thick and much more full, the way in which a lot of people sing. And so sometimes if it's just me, just looping over and over again, then it doesn't have the texture so I'll throw in a couple of other voices, or I'll try to sing it a little bit different, just to add all of that padding to it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, going back to the Beatles, that's why John and Paul would always just sing unisons on a lot of things, just to be thicker, Yeah. So, we're kind of coming to towards the end here. Now, you were so you've been senior minister at several CSLs throughout your career. You mentioned Atlanta, which was your last.
So I started in the Los Angeles area. So I got my license and I served, not as senior minister, but I served as staff there, because you had to do that as a part of the requirement once you graduated in Granada Hills. And the rule was that you had to, before you could become ordained, you had to have your own church for a minimum of 3 years, or you had to have served 7 years, and you had to check off all these points. And again, we're talking of an archaic system that doesn't exist anymore. But I was always on the road. I was doing all of the things that a platform minister would do, but I was doing in hundreds of churches across the planet. And so I wasn't qualified to check all the boxes off. And so I became the first, oh gosh, of course, the term's going to go right out of my head, focus minister in religious science, that they had to realize that not everybody's going to fit that box. And so I was the thorn in their side for them to go, we've got to come up with different standards because of that dang David Ault. And so I became a focus minister. And that really was part of my mentor and teacher, Maureen Hoyt, who advocated for me, and the rules began to change. And so then I had no intention, again, of having my own brick and mortar church. And I moved, of all places, to Mobile, Alabama. Lower, or the other LA, as they like to call it, Lower Alabama. And I got there, and there were some smaller communities, but nothing that was, I don't know. And I moved there to be in proximity to my mom, who was aging, and I didn't want to move back to Texas. And so that was a car trip, and I could fly and still do my stuff. And I taught some lessons there in Mobile, Alabama, and I advertised. And those classes grew, and those people were like, start a community. And I'm like, no. And they're like, start it. They wore me down. And it was an absolute joy to start a center, because there's something beautiful about building something from scratch, and the sweat equity that everybody puts in. And it grew, and it was just amazing. And when I was walking that first Camino, I knew that my time there was over, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go back to on the road and promote Kaleidoscope. And then Atlanta called, and then I wound up in Atlanta, and I have stayed here ever since then.
Yeah.
And Atlanta was really, really a moment in time. The inclusivity and the things that I learned from leading something that large, and it was great.
How many times have you walked the Camino?
Twice.
Okay.
I did it again 2 years ago. I did the Portugal route to raise money for Kaleidoscope. You know, after the pandemic, everybody was struggling, and nonprofits were struggling. And I thought, boy, I got to shake this thing up to raise funds. And so I walked the Camino and broadcast and raised money to help us maintain programming. I love, even after all those years, still loved it. I want to do it again.
I just want to ask, and if we need to edit out because it's a non-starter, in Mobile, did you run into John Miller? Do you know him?
Yeah, John.
Okay.
John was great. John would sort of sneak away from Methodist, Baptist, whatever he was doing, and he would come over. And John helped me a lot with some technical stuff, and that's where he got the idea to do the New Thought movie.
All right.
Yeah. He's what a great guy.
He is. He's lovely.
Great. Yeah.
Beautiful little family.
Yeah.
So we're drawing towards the present day on this retrospective. So that's towards the end here.
What a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Well, like I said, it's been you've been on my list since day one. So what a pleasure for us, and what an honor.
Same here. Honor
definitely.
for me.
In fact,
I loved not knowing what you were going to pick too. That was really great.
That freaks some people out.
Don't change that formula. That's a lot of fun.
So with the idea of honoring you and honoring your path and all that you've given us, thank you so much. And we're going to play "I Honor It All" from your latest release with Karen Drucker.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say about that, or should we just go out on it?
She and I traveled together, and she's been a bestie for many, many years. And we just had the time of our life. And we realized we had written together, but we had actually never recorded anything together. And so we said, another year can't go by. And that was something that we just wrote for a retreat that we co-facilitated. And I flew to San Francisco, and her husband helped engineer part of that. And then my Jack Lee helped engineer all of that. So we were able to say we birthed a baby. So this is the
Nice.
baby we birthed.
Nice. Well, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I honor it all.
I honor it all, every season of my life.
I honor it all, the darkness and the light.
I honor it all, every season of my life.
I honor it all.
I honor it all. I honor it all, every feeling that I feel.
I honor it all, things imagined and things real.
I honor the pain that caused my knees to kneel.
I honor it all.
I honor it all. Whatever it was that caused me so much fear,
Whatever the struggle I carried through my years.
whomever it was behind the bitter tears,
I honor it all.
I honor it all. I honor it all, every season of my life. I honor it all, the darkness and the light.
I honor it all, every season of my life. I honor it all.
I honor